This is a sports catastrophe production. Hey there, ho there, ho there. It's Jeff Cardano welcoming you to another sports catastrophe birthday boy. And this birthday boy was an icon who should have stayed a Green Bay Packer, but he got a little bit egotistical and decided to play for other teams instead. So Brett Favre, yes, him. He's 52 today. He's played for the Packers primarily. He played 20 years in the NFL, having 321 consecutive starts, the most in league history. He was the first NFL quarterback to get 70,000 yards, 10,000 pass attempts, 6,000 completions, 500 touchdowns, 200 wins, and beating every one of the 32 teams possible. Favre would play at Southern Miss, not really a college powerhouse, if you will. And was actually selected in the second round of the draft by the Falcons. And then he got traded to the Packers, and then he decided to want to continue playing after a while. And then he went to the Jets for 1 year and spent 2 years with the Vikings, which is like, what the heck? I mean, the Vikings of all teams. So Favre actually holds the league records for consecutive starts, and depending on if you're a Brett Favre liker or lover or hater, the most interceptions and fumbles by a quarterback. In fact, he was the MVP in 95, 96, and 97. So 3 straight years. He was inducted to the Hall of Fame in 2016, obviously. So he had the blessing of his father, Irv, who always told him to do his best and all that. Southern Miss wanted him to play defensive back, but he wanted to be a quarterback. So he was the 7th-string quarterback. And somehow, in the 3rd game of the year against Tulane, he was the starter. Favre, despite having a hangover, led the Golden Eagles to a come-from-behind victory. He would start 10 games during his freshman year, winning 6 of them. And in his junior season, Favre shocked everyone, especially college football purists, by taking out number 6 Florida State, which was huge. However, before the start of Favre's senior year, he was involved in a car accident. While going around a bend, Favre lost control of his car, which fell 3 times and came to rest against a tree. It was only after one of his brothers smashed the car window with a golf club that Favre was evacuated and rushed to the hospital. In the ambulance, his mom sat with him. And doctors would have to remove 30 inches or 2.5 feet of Favre's small intestine. And weird enough, 6 weeks after what happened, he led Southern Miss to a win over Alabama. Now, Alabama wasn't really the great Alabama team we know and love today, or even in the mid-90s, but Favre set a lot of records for Southern Miss and all that. I remember, I think it was Louisville. Was it Louisville or another team called the Cardinals? But he threw a Hail Mary pass, which got him. So in his 4 years at Southern Miss, he passed for 52 touchdowns and 34 interceptions. So Favre was drafted in the 2nd round of the 1991 NFL Draft. So, shockingly, this was the 91 draft that saw that Rocket Ismail actually signed in the CFL instead of being in the NFL. Dallas, with the number 1 pick, decided to go with Russell Maryland, defensive tackle from Miami. As for quarterbacks, Seattle took Dan McGuire from San Diego State. And yes, Dan McGuire was Mark McGuire's brother. I talked about it when I did the Mark McGuire thing earlier this month. So that was huge. That Seattle decided to go with Dan McGuire. The Los Angeles Raiders went with Todd Maranovich from USC, who was basically this robo quarterback. Favre ended up being the 3rd quarterback picked in the draft. Just 1 spot before the Jets took Brownie Nagel from Louisville. Yake. So, Todd Maranovich basically was robo quarterback because his father put him on a strict regimen that that, Marinovic was not allowed to eat certain foods. He was not allowed to do certain things and all that. And basically, when he went to college, he just lost his mentality. I think Marinovic was upset that he was being trained like from his dad, but in the way he did. So I suggest you read up on it. So anyway, Atlanta took him in the second round and he got a 3-year contract. But Jerry Glanville didn't want Favre, saying that it would take a plane crash to get him in the game. Oh, gee, that's weird. Favre, in fact, his first pass in the regular season was a pick 6 against the Redskins. He only attempted 4 passes in one season in Atlanta and completed none of them. So Atlanta didn't really want him. And Green Bay, February of '92, decided to do something. Now, Ron Wolf, the GM of the Packers, actually wanted to take Brett Favre in the '91 draft because the Jets were next on the clock at number 34. But with Favre gone, they took Brownie Nagel. It failed miserably. So Wolf, knowing that, becoming the GM, says, I want Brett Favre. So he was willing to trade a first-round pick. Let that sink in. I mean, a first-round pick for a guy who only attempted 4 passes in one season with the Falcons. That pick was running back Tony Smith, if you must know, and he was kind of a bust. So anyway, Favre was diagnosed with necrosis of the hip. That was the same degenerative condition that ended Bo Jackson's football career. And the doctor said the physical will be failed, which would notify the trade. Wolf said, no way. I don't want to do that. I have faith in this guy. So Favre would play 16 years with the Packers, winning 3 straight title MVPs. Got the Packers to 2 Super Bowls, winning Super Bowl 31 and losing Super Bowl 32. And it was amazing. How he got in was also amazing. They took on the Cincinnati Bengals. Packers and Bengals from Lambeau Field. But Don Majkowski, who was this hotshed quarterback in 1989, who was probably the best quarterback in the NFC that time, he ended up getting injured. So Majkowski was hurt, and he would be out for a while. Favre would have to replace the Magic Man. Favre fumbled 4 times, and the Packer fans wanted Ty Detmer, former star for BYU. However, down by 6 with 1:07, the Packers made a 92-yard drive, and Favre would then pass the game-winning touchdown to Kidrick Taylor. Not a household name, but anyway. He would be the starter forever, and Majkowski went to the Colts. Favre would give the Packers a key playoff spot in the 93-94 playoffs, their first playoff berth in 12 years. They had to go to the Silverdome to play Detroit. And Favre got the winning touchdown to Sharp with a minute left. Unfortunately, they lost to Dallas in the divisional round. Favre was given a 5-year contract, though. But yeah, in '95, he was just on fire. However, Favre developed an addiction to Vicodin and all that. So he went into treatment. He went into treatment and was rehabbed for 46 days, which was a long time, but it got him off the juice, man. So anyway, Favre would help the Packers get to the '96 playoffs. And they ended up going to the Super Bowl. At 13-3, they looked like favorites. They took care of San Francisco and Carolina in the playoffs. Carolina shocking a lot of people by being in their second year in the league and then going to the conference finals. The Packers would get to Super Bowl 31 at the Louisiana Superdome, which is not far from Favre's hometown. And Favre played well. Although his completion percentage wasn't anything to write home around, he did throw a touchdown on the second play of the game to Andre Rison. Good for him, getting that. And then he would get a touchdown pass to Antonio Freeman. Favre did well, 35-21. Unfortunately, he did not win MVP of the Super Bowl. They gave it to Desmond Howard. Kind of stupid, don't you think? Well, now you think of it. Green Bay was going for the repeat. They got to the Super Bowl against Denver. They were favored by 11 points. They looked good. But then John Elway just wanted that ring more than Favre. and Denver won 31-24. That would be the last time Favre would be in the Super Bowl. Favre, after that, ended up, playing his heart out. So, in 2001, he got a 10-year contract extension worth $100 million. That same season, he actually was in controversy because he kind of went down easily by Michael. Favre fell over easily, trying to get Michael Strahan the sacks record that was held by Mark Gastineau since 1984. It was just terrible and all that. But anyway, Favre still did pretty well. However, the day after his father died of a heart attack in Mississippi, Favre decided to play on Monday Night Football against the Oakland Raiders, even though that he could have easily taken that game off and no one would have cared. But Favre shocked everyone. He threw for 4 touchdowns in the first half in a 41-7 win. And the funny thing is that Raider Nation actually applauded him. And, the black hole usually doesn't appreciate opposing teams. But, man, that was amazing. So he completed 73% of his passes and did pretty well. And Favre said, I knew my dad would want me to play. I love him so much and I love this game. It's meant a great deal to me, to my dad, to my family. And I didn't expect this kind of performance, but I know he was watching tonight. So he went to his father's funeral the next day. And he won an ESPY award for that. So Favre had problems. 10 months after the death of his father, his brother-in-law / his wife Deanna's brother died in an ATV accident on Favre's property of all places. Favre's wife was diagnosed with breast cancer soon after in 2004, but she recovered and created the Hope Foundation for breast cancer. And Favre's family suffered another setback. Hurricane Katrina blew through Mississippi and destroyed his family's home. Thankfully, his family members weren't injured. So anyway, Favre still wanted to play in 2005. A lot of people speculated he would retire. But in 2007, he proved them wrong. He ended up getting the most wins, passing John Elway. Well, rather, this is at the time, in the 2007 playoffs. And then he threw his 421st touchdown pass, beating Dan Marino's record, to Greg Jennings. Anyway, Brett Favre beat the Lions on Thanksgiving 2007, winning the Fox Gobbler Award. And the Packers were 13-3, getting the second seed in the NFC playoffs. The Packers crushed Seattle in the divisional playoffs, and then they somehow got shocked by the New York Giants in the NFC title game. The Giants took care of Dallas, the only team above Green Bay in the standings. So the Giants shocked them 23-20 in overtime. Favre, unfortunately, threw an interception in overtime that set up the Giants' game-winning field goal. So Favre's last pass as a Packer was a overtime interception in the NFC title game that could have sent the Packers to the Super Bowl and a dream matchup of Brady versus Favre. He decided to retire and hand the reins to Aaron Rodgers. So he formally announced his retirement March the 4th. But by July, he said he wanted his unconditional release to play for another NFL team. What? You formally announced your retirement. Pathetic. Anyway, Favre actually filed for reinstatement to the NFL July 29th and was granted by Commissioner Goodell August 4th, 2008. The Packers were going to retire Favre's number 4 jersey in the season opener, but because he'll be an active player, they couldn't do that. And they didn't set the timeline for retiring the number 4 because obviously you have to wait. See, so after Tampa tried to get Favre and failed, Favre was traded to the New York Jets for a 4th-round pick. a 4th-round pick for one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Pathetic. Anyway, Favre did well. He looked good. Unfortunately, Favre had an injury. He had shoulder pain. He had a torn biceps tendon in his right shoulder, and yet he still continued to play. That cost the Jets dearly. They lost 4 of the last 5 and lost a chance at the playoffs. On the final day of the season, the Jets had a chance to beat the Miami Dolphins, and that win actually would have helped the Patriots win the division and get to the playoffs. Unfortunately, the Jets lost to the Dolphins. And worst of all for Miami, for the Jets, Miami had Chad Pennington, the guy who was dumped off for Brett Favre. So Pennington helped Miami win the division and sink the Jets and the Patriots to that effect. So that's how I kind of got hated at Brett Favre. I said, you had one job to help the Patriots make the playoffs, but obviously Brett Favre. So I flipped him off. I flipped a picture of him off. So anyway, yeah, Favre should have sat down or got treatment for his injury, but man, that was pathetic. So basically, he was done for. But he decided to go to Minnesota for some reason, which was stupid because, I mean, Minnesota? Of all teams, he could have went to the AFC. Who would have cared? So anyway, the Packers had to play in Minnesota first in that 2009 season and won, and the Packers lost 30-29. That meant that Favre beat every team in the NFL. The Vikings had a 6-0 start, which was pretty good and all that. However, Week 8 was significant because guess where Favre would have to play? Green Bay. Yeah, that's right. The fans really booed him, but he threw 4 passing touchdowns, and the Vikings won. The Vikings were 12-4 and got a first-round bye. They crushed Dallas in the divisional round. They got to the NFC title game against the New Orleans Saints. But Brett Favre overdid his passing. Like, I think his ego got the best of him again. Just like 2008 when he threw that interception for interception in overtime that sent the Giants on the drive to get the winning field goal to go to the Super Bowl in the first place. Favre threw a bad interception, and the Vikings radio announcers went berserk because Favre could have ran for like 5 to 10 yards and got closer for Longwell to kick the winning field goal. But his ego got the best of him, probably. The Saints ended up winning the game in overtime and going to the Super Bowl and winning it. So Favre figured he would play one more season. Unfortunately, he suffered a sprain of the AC joint in his right shoulder against the Bills. And Favre was marked inactive against the Giants December 13, 2010, which meant his consecutive regular season streak was 297, and including the playoffs, it was 321, and he finally decided to hang him up and all that. Unfortunately, Favre could not do it, and he decided to retire and having health issues. Well, he has multiple concussions and all that. Yeah. So it took till 2015 for Packers to retire his number 4, even though he was out of the league for like 3 years. So that's how bad they felt about this thing of Favre not only retiring and then going off to the Jets, but then he went to the Vikings of all places. So anyway, Favre still had some good work and all that. His consecutive game streak will never be surpassed. I mean, he played every game pretty much for 17 years. And geez, like how many people have careers longer than 15 years in the NFL? Not many, except for Brady, but that doesn't matter. So Brett Favre ended his career with 302 games played, with 186 wins under his belt. Over 6,000 completions, 71,838 passing yards, 508 touchdowns, 336 interceptions, which is still the longest. In the postseason, he played 24 postseason games with 481 completions, 5,855 passing yards, 44 touchdowns, but 30 interceptions. So, yeah. Favre just had problems. Well, Favre married Deanna in 1996 and have two daughters, Brittany and Braylee. And Brittany was born in 1989, but she had a kid when Favre was still playing. I think it was like 2011 or something. So Favre has a grandchild while he was working. Favre's mother actually helps his holdings in agriculture and real estate stuff and handle his endorsements and appearances, which is pretty good. Favre's nephew played in the indoor football league. So anyway, Favre became the offensive coordinator for a high school. And they won the Class 6A Mississippi High School Championship. He's known for his charitable work. He was on the cover of Madden 2008. The funny thing is that there's two covers of that Madden 08 thing. One with him as a Packer and one of him in a Jets uniform, which is kind of stupid, but whatever. So anyway, yeah, and Favre was even in the movie There's Something About Mary as one of Cameron Diaz's former love interests. And it was that famous line that Ben Stiller gives to Cameron Diaz. What about Brett Favre? And then Mary says, what did I tell you? I'm a Niners fan. Now, here's the thing, though. That line was in the movie. They were supposed to get Steve Young to be in that movie because it would make sense. Steve Young as the Niners quarterback. However, because Steve Young was a staunch Mormon, he didn't approve of the script. So he said no, and Brett Favre said yes. So they changed kind of on the fly. But anyway, Brett Favre shouldn't be remembered for his Madden 08 double covers or his There's Something About Mary thing or his interceptions that cost him dearly in Green Bay and Minnesota in the playoffs. He was a legendary quarterback, and basically he was the inspiration for Brees and Brady to beat his butt into the ground whenever possible and steal his records. Whatever. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.